the longer this current cycle goes on, the more people are beginning to realize that some things have already changed quite a bit in this particular cycle. On the one hand, it has changed in that we used to always have a clear breakout with Bitcoin back then. Look at these breakouts. In 2013, we had a massive breakout. In 2017, we had a huge Bitcoin breakout, but we also had a really nice altcoin phase. We saw the drop in Bitcoin dominance, and as a result, we had this altcoin phase. In 2021, there was a massive Bitcoin cycle, the drop in Bitcoin dominance, and with that, we also had a big altcoin season. Right now, it's like this. Bitcoin is rising, but we're not entering the overheated zone yet. We haven't seen a drop in Bitcoin dominance, and we're still far from an altcoin season. And that's kind of the problem you're facing in this cycle. Bitcoin is going up, but not as significantly as in the past. The altcoins have been stagnating for months. Occasionally we see a breakout, then a sharp correction, then another breakout. But not much is really happening here. And especially when we look at Bitcoin dominance, we can see that it's steadily increasing. Still, I think that in the near future, the altcoins could also get a piece of the pie again. Because every time Bitcoin breaks out of these long, tough phases, right at that moment when we break out, the altcoins also perform. It was exactly the same here. The altcoins also got a bit of the pie again. And what was really interesting was this example. When Donald Trump won, as we all know, we had a massive Bitcoin breakout, and the altcoins also got a good share of the pie. Of course, we didn't have an altcoin Cezeno, not that, but the altcoins still got a significant piece of the pie again. But since then, we've been in a kind of stagnation phase, just hanging around in the zone and haven't been able to break out yet. However, I expect a breakout this month, and when that happens, I also expect that the altcoins will be able to get a share of the pie again. Because one thing has to be said, in 2017 we saw a strong drop in Bitcoin dominance. For over 12 months, the altcoins were able to perform. After that, we had 34 months of a Bitcoin season, followed by another 9 months of an altcoin season. Right now, we've been in a Bitcoin season for quite a long time, and based on time and data, we don't have many months left. If things play out like they have in the past, we would only have about 4 to 5 months left until we see the bull run peak. That means if we now see a drop in Bitcoin dominance, we would have at most 4 to 5 months in which the altcoins could also perform really well. And that's a big difference compared to the past. We're going to see the drop in Bitcoin dominance much more quickly. As a result, the coins won't perform for as long, but it will be short and really intense. And as I said, our current problem is that we're stuck in this stagnation phase the whole time. We found support down here. That was our old all-time high back then. This here is our new all-time high, and we've tested it a few times now, but we just can't break through it properly. We've already tested it 6 or 7 times and still can't break through. However, I expect that we will break through here sustainably once more this month, which means we will break out, and accordingly, the altcoins will finally get a piece of the pie again during this period. I think we will continue to follow this trend line with Bitcoin, and I definitely expect new all-time highs for Bitcoin this month. I believe we could see a breakout here towards $110,000 to $112,000. From there, we will continue to rise. That's what I'm currently expecting. And as I said, during this time, the altcoins can finally get a piece of the pie again, because in my opinion, the Bitcoin chart looks like it's about to break out. And if we look at July in general, we can see that on average, July has delivered a 7% gain. That means July isn't actually that bad for Bitcoin. Sure, the summer months aren't usually the best months on average, but July in particular is typically a pretty good month for Bitcoin. That's why for me, there are several factors right now pointing to a breakout, especially since we're currently at all-time high levels and yet no one seems interested in this market. We're at 52 on the Fear and Greed Index, even though we're basically at all-time high levels. That's crazy. But each time, this has taken the selling pressure out of the market, allowing us to keep climbing steadily. What's happening now is simply that we can clearly see from the hash rate that miners are slowly starting to capitulate. And that usually indicates that there might be a short-term dip, but in the long run, it's really good. Just take a look at when miners tend to capitulate. Miners typically capitulate during a bear market because the Bitcoin price is too low, making mining unprofitable, and as a result, they are sometimes forced to sell some of their Bitcoins. You can see this perfectly in the chart here. Take a look at it. It was exactly during this phase that the miners capitulated, and that was pretty close to the bottom. After that, we saw a nice breakout. The exact same thing happened here in 2019. The miners basically capitulated when we were deep in the bear market, and after this miner capitulation, we saw a significant long-term increase. The exact same thing happened in July 2020. Bitcoin was at a pretty low point, and it's precisely when Bitcoin is this low that miners usually capitulate. It's actually good when they capitulate now. That takes some headwind off our backs. It also removes some of the sell pressure, and in the long run, that's much better. And right now, this trend is moving exactly in that direction. These are some of the reasons why I think this year could definitely get very interesting for the crypto market, and why I believe July could turn out to be a pretty good month. And since we're already talking about altcoins, we might as well talk about Ethereum. Especially with Ethereum, a lot has been happening in the past few days. ETF inflows have become really substantial. Smart money is accumulating, and then there was this shocking news that surprised everyone here. The big digital CEO has now said they're going all in on Ethereum. Because the crazy thing is, they are selling their Bitcoins and are currently buying Ethereum instead. That's what we've already seen on chain, and it's really huge. They're doing exactly the same thing Michael Saylor did with Bitcoin, only for Ethereum. And you can really start to notice this shift happening. More and more people are jumping on the Ethereum bandwagon, and now it's starting to get really interesting. In the end, this phase is starting to feel a lot like the same phase we had with Bitcoin back when the ETFs came out, but now it's happening with Ethereum. He confirmed it himself again in the interview. Many institutional investors missed the Bitcoin train, and now having another chance, the same thing is happening with Ethereum, just like when he was asked here, why do you believe in Ethereum? Ethereum is the blue chip institutional blockchain to do that, and it's the only one. There is no second best. You heard it yourselves. Especially for institutional investors, Ethereum is the number one go-to platform. He also talked about how growth here has generally increased tremendously. Plus, we're now seeing more and more real-world assets coming onto Ethereum as well. Stocks or anything else that can be traded 24/7. All of that is slowly being built in the background on Ethereum. The development is enormous, and he really is someone who has the inside scoop since he talks to smart money on a daily basis. Additionally, if we look at the current Ethereum chart, we can see that we're slowly breaking through the 50 EMA on a weekly basis. That would be super interesting. So we've already broken through here. Now it depends on whether we can stay above it. Because if we really break through here in a sustainable way, and the next candle confirms it, then folks, we could climb much higher. Just look at what happened after we broke through last time. We gained 130%. Same thing here, we saw a 50% increase. Here we broke down, which is why Ethereum performed so poorly, but now we're slowly breaking back above it, which is a super important sign. I mean, the 50 EMA also triggered the bull run for Ethereum back then. Just imagine that. When we broke above it, it triggered the bull run with massive price explosions. The 50 EMA is super interesting and highly significant in this regard. That's why we really need to wait for the next one or two candles. But if it really gets confirmed now that we're breaking above here, that will be really bullish for Ethereum. Because what's basically forming right now is a golden cross here on Ethereum. Just look at how close the lines already are to each other. And that currently points entirely to the next major breakout. So keep your eyes on Ethereum right now. We could quickly head towards $3,000 in the short term, and you can see it too. The charts support this, and so do the activities of institutional investors. Smart money is currently accumulating Ethereum very actively. They're constantly increasing their Ethereum holdings here, while the masses are still in a panic, just as we've once again reached a new all-time high in global liquidity. There are quite a few signs that this month is going to get really interesting for Bitcoin and altcoins. And I'm not saying that we're going to see a massive altcoin season this month. No, absolutely not. But I can very well imagine that we'll set a new all-time high for Bitcoin, that Ethereum will perform really well again, and that especially the altcoins will also get a bit of a boost. That's what I'm talking about. A real altcoin season will only happen when Bitcoin overheats very quickly in the short term, and we're definitely not there yet. Otherwise, friends, this video was of course a lot of work, so I would really appreciate it if you could support it with a like and a comment.